Hello everyone, welcome to another lecture. In this lecture today, we are going to design the layout for the registration activity. So we have this activity register.xml file here, and inside this file, we are going to design the required layout. So just like how we did in the activity login.xml file, we are going to drag and drop the component and make the layout that we need. So let's go ahead and do that. The first things we're going to need is a plain text for the full name. Even though we are not going to need this full name field, we are only going to need email and the password field, but I want to have this field so that in the coming lecture, when we will use Firestore to store the profile of the user, we can use this same application to continue our lecture. Okay, so it's good to have this field here. So let me add this here and give the padding. I always keep on saying padding, but it's margin. So let's give the margin on all the sides and make it match constraint. And here, instead of giving this text, I want to give the hint. So let me go ahead and here add the hint, and hint is full name. And we also need to give the ID, that is register full name. Okay, and refactor here. So that is the one of the field that we need. Now we're going to add email field and password and confirmation password field. So let me drag and drop the one more plain text, or we can also use this email field here. Let me fix the constraint as usual, and this top constraint is going to have the constraint at the bottom of the full name, and make it as match constraint 16 dp of margin on the sides and top. Okay, and now let me give the hint as email address. So okay, and don't forget to give the ID as well. So register email. Okay, now let's go ahead and add the two fields. One is for the password and another one is for the confirmation of the password. Okay, so this one is for the password, and see that I have used the password field that is provided by the Android Studio. And let's fix the constant as usual, give the 16 dp of margin, and let me give the hint as well here, password, and let's change the ID of the field and make it as registered password. Okay, now finally I also need to set the constant. Okay, now let me drag and drop one more password field here for the confirmation of the password, because we want user to be able to enter the password two times. One is for the original password and another field is for the confirmation of the password, so that user will be able to remember what they have entered. Okay, and let me change this to confirmation password and make it as match constraint, and we'll also give the hint, or we'll just say password again. Okay, confirm password. Okay, so these are the fields that we need. Now let's drag and drop the button that let the user finally register the new account. Yes, and let me give the margin that we need, and let's change the text of this button to register, make it as match constraint, and we'll also give the 24 dp of margin. Okay, yeah, that looks fine. And finally the ID. Okay, let's refactor. Now this is the layout that we need for our registration activity. Now let's go ahead and run this, but actually we can't see this page because we have login activity as our launcher activity, so we can't do anything. So what we can do is, let me show you what we have. We have this login page here, right? Login activity here, right? So I want to give one more option here so that user can register the new account. So let me drag and drop one more button here so that user can go and register the new account if they don't have the account. Okay, so let's go to the activity login here, and let me drag and drop one more button and make it as mass constant. Let me give the ID as create account button. Okay, because we are going to use this button to create the new account. And let me give the 16 dp of margin, and let me fix the constant to the top, and let me give 8 dp of margin top. Okay, let me change the text to create account. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to handle the click on this create account button, because if user don't have new account, if the user wants to create the new account, then they should be able to go to the register and they should be able to create the new account. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're going to handle the click on this create account button from the login.java file, and we will let them go to the register activity. So let's go to the login here and create the button variable that we need, and let me give the name as create account button. Okay, now we need to connect the resources. So create account button equals to find view by id r.id, and the ID of that button, that is create account button. Okay, so let me go here and select the create account button. Now what we can do is we can handle the click on this button. So we can use this ID and set the on click listener and new on click listener, and finally here we will start the new activity whenever user click on that create account button. So start activity, new intent, and here we need to give the source and destination. So source is this, because we want to go from current activity to the register activity, right? So register.class here. Okay, so we are not able to use this here because we are inside this anonymous method, right? We can get the application context and we are good to go. Okay, so now let's run this application and see what happens when we click on the create account button. Okay, so run this application on my emulator. Now we have this create account button, and now I'm going to click on this and it's going to open the register activity. Okay, so this is how we so these were the things that I want to implement in this lecture: the layout design and also the register button. And we also add one more button here, and we'll do that in the next lecture. Okay, so that if user wants to go back to the login activity, then they can click on login here and they can go back there. So we'll do that in the next lecture. So I will see you there.